very good afternoon. Today we're looking at this beautiful 1998 Lexus LS400. Really, probably one of the most important luxury cars of the 20th century, and a real game changer in the luxury car field. This car, when it was introduced in late 1989, really made the German luxury car brands very nervous, such as BMW, Mercedes, Audi, and Jaguar. Yes, I said Jaguar. So all of those brands really had to reconsider how they did business after the LS400 was introduced. Now what we're looking at here, 1998. So this was kind of the last iteration of this generation before the introduction of the LS430, which came out, I believe, in 2001, which was really an evolution of this platform and a much larger car, frankly. The LS400, however, was certainly considered a full-size car when it was introduced, but by today's standards, you know, if you got in any sort of like modern Honda Accord or Toyota Camry, I think you would find much more room for activities on the inside. But this car is very, really quite comfortable and quite wonderful for what it is. And it's just a really great car, and we're going to talk about that today. We're going to talk about kind of an overview of the features, the good things, the bad things, and I'll probably do separate videos just kind of highlighting all of those things, the good and the bad. But this, again, is just going to be a general overview of some of the things that make this car unique. You can see, obviously, four-door sedan, has a decent-sized trunk. We're not going to show the trunk today. I have too much junk in there, sorry. But as we look around the outside, you can see, obviously, some faded headlights. I need to redo those again. But these do have the high-intensity beams, and they do auto level up and down, which is pretty cool for 1998. And they are quite bright. And you can see also we have the fog lamps. I also need to redo those. Got a little bit of rash there from the previous owner. But really, considering how many miles this car has and how old it is, I think it looks quite good. Going around the back here, most of these cars, you're going to see paint wear on the rear bumper, and my car is no exception. I mean, it got tapped quite a few times, and it was like that when I bought it. I swear. And there's the parking lot door dings that you're going to expect from a car of this age. This is not a show car. This is not, this is not a concourse car. This is a driver, absolutely a driver. And this car was certainly my workhorse. I've had this for almost 6 years, and this car was my workhorse for 5 of those years. Just driving all over the place. I've put about, 90,000 miles on this car since I bought it. And, it's pretty crazy to think that a car of this age would be something that would be reliable enough that you could put that many miles on. Now, let's be really clear about all of this. I've seen some of these cars on YouTube, other people reviewing them, and they say, oh yeah, I paid $1,000 for it, and it's really been perfect. And you know what? Don't expect to pay $1,000 for one of these and have a perfect car. To have a car that works as well as mine, you're going to have to spend some money. Not a lot of money when you think about it. It's still going to be cheaper than buying really any new car. But to give you an idea, I bought this car in 2015. I paid $4,000 for it, and I bought it from the second owner, although it was in his family its whole life. It was his father's car, and then it was his car. So, it was really a one family car. He did two things that were really good. He kept it in the garage, and he changed the oil. But that was it. And that was it, folks. He didn't do anything else to this car. It was just oil changes, fill-ups, and in the garage. So, not bad, but, none of the preventative maintenance was done. He had no idea about the timing belt, and he told me, he said, well, I just drove it to Vegas, and, you know, got 27 miles per gallon, so the timing belt must be working well. And I said, yeah, that's not really how that works. I said, either it works or it doesn't, you know. And when I bought this car, it had 140,000 miles, roughly. And it made a horrible, like, belt squeak at startup, and I didn't know what it was. Turns out it was the timing belt. It was screaming for its dear life, which, you know, and I didn't really know anything about this car. You know, I knew it was good, but I didn't really know about the timing belt stuff. And so I was pleasantly surprised after having that done almost immediately. And my mechanic told me it was probably the worst timing belt he's ever seen. So, you know, you got to figure that belt was on there since new, 1998 to 2015, and it made it 140,000 miles. But I don't think it was going to make it 141,000 miles. Now, this car has the variable valve timing, which the first generation of LS400 didn't have. So it's really important to note that, and if you are going to get one of these, make sure you find out when the timing belt was done, because you know, it's going to be lights out for your motor if that goes. Now, again, the variable valve timing, that's a good thing, because you get a bump in horsepower. This one has 290 horsepower, and it makes torque. I can't remember the figure, sorry. I'll try and put that on the screen if I remember. But, you know, it's not a fast car, but it's not a slow car. I mean, it definitely moves 0 to 60 somewhere in the neighborhood of, I believe, 6.5 seconds, you know, which, you know, especially for the time, is really good. You know, if you watch any of those old Motor Week episodes, you're going to find, you know, a brisk 9 or 10 second 0 to 60 in a lot of those reviews, or, you know, a quick quarter mile in 18 seconds. I just love that. But this car will boogie. I think the quarter mile, somewhere in the 14-second range, which, you know, for a Luxo barge, like, you know, what more could you ask for? In any case, really nice car, smooth, comfortable. When it came out, it was considered a luxury car by today's standards, and Doug DeMuro kind of touched on this in his review, and he did a first-gen LS400. He said, you know, there's really not much that makes it a luxury car by today's standards. It's just kind of a car with leather seats. And I suppose he's right. But there are kind of some features that make this car, you know, stand out a little bit from just, you know, a Camry or an Accord or, you know, any kind of regular car. And hey, there's nothing wrong with having a nice Camry or Accord. Those are great cars. So, sorry. Sorry for those of you that have those. I'm not trying to say anything bad about that, because those are really awesome. So there you have it. That's kind of the exterior review. We're looking at the mirrors here. We're looking at, you know, if they get bumped, you're all right. You can see, and that certainly happened in quite a few parking lots where I come back and my mirror is pushed. But, you know, hey, no damage. So that's cool. They really built this car like a tank, and it's just so solid. I'm going to pop the hood so you can see the motor. Hard to do this one-handed. So the hood, very heavy, and I mean heavy. Now I forgot to clean the leaves out, sorry. This car lives under an oak tree most of the time, so we get a lot of leaves. And I didn't realize how corroded my battery terminal was. Man, that's pretty rough. I'm going to fix that, don't worry. So here you have the 1UZ FE with the VVT-i. Again, really great motor. It runs super smooth. Now, I will note, here's some things that I've had to do to this motor, and these are all pretty common things. The valve cover gaskets were toast when I bought the car. Oh, an Acura, you don't see those very often. I'm out here on the Angeles Forest, so this is where Matt Farah does a lot of his reviews. So I think we're going to hear a lot of cars racing by But in any case, the things that I've had to do to this car, we have new valve cover gaskets, which was not a big deal, but I had my shop do it because it just seemed like too much work for me. The power steering pump, maybe 6 months after I got the car, or less, power steering pump leaked all over the alternator and ruined the alternator. So, of course, that was awesome because we were on vacation in Las Vegas when that happened. So that extended our trip by a couple of days and about $500, but we got it all buttoned up. And then a year later, that same power steering pump went bad again. So I had to have that redone in town, and instead of using an AutoZone part, we used a Toyota part. And that's really what you have to do with these cars. Also, radiator blew up. That was, well, actually the radiator was fine. It was just the neck that exploded. So new radiator, new hoses. And then about 6 months later, or a year later, the lower radiator hose killed itself. And that was because it wasn't a factory hose. So it was making contact with something, and the friction caused a hole in that. So that was a drag. So we did that. Also, motor mounts, that made a huge difference. This car drove so much better. When they did the motor mounts, they also, again, sorry about the leaves, they also replaced this because it broke. I'm not sure what that is, but it cost me an extra $150 or whatever. I think it has something to do with the heater. Somebody in the comments may tell me. You can get a better look at it. Again, sorry, I just don't remember. I wasn't that concerned with it. So anyway, did the motor mounts, also the transmission mount, that made a huge difference. You know, if you have any kind of vibration, make sure you do that. When I got the car, it had this weird vibration around 55, 65 miles an hour. I got new tires, I got them balanced and rebalanced. Nothing seemed to make a difference. And then it turns out it was the transmission mount. So I was surprised about that. And I actually did that myself in the driveway. It was super easy. It's like a $50 part. And I went with, you know, again, Toyota part there. So let's see, new radiator. Mounts, power steering pump twice, alternator once, valve cover gaskets. Oh yeah, brake master cylinder. That went out. And I replaced it with something I got from Rock Auto, and it went out again. So now that's a Toyota OEM part, and that works better for sure. But I think, like, mechanically, pretty sure that's about it. I mean, the engine has been absolutely rock solid. And one of the things that I meant to set up, kind of preset for you guys, that I didn't think about, was to show just how smooth this thing is. So I'm going to put a glass of water right there and show you exactly just how smooth this thing runs. So we'll put our Starbucks water like right there. Well, yeah, that's probably a better spot. Now the motor mounts are probably 3 years old now, so this might not be perfect, but let's see. There's that noisy steering wheel. I'll talk about that later. Look at that. Look at how smooth that is. It's amazing. Show you a better look at that. I mean, just ever so slightly. Just ever so slightly moving. And we haven't even talked about how many miles this car has. But as you can see, 229,679 miles. And the air conditioner's on. I'll give it a few revs. That's 4,000 RPM. Just the ever so slightest of disturbance as we got closer to $5,000. So again, with new motor mounts, you probably wouldn't even see that. But you know, the commercials that they did for these cars back in the day, they did a whole like pyramid of wine glasses or champagne glasses or something, and they rolled the car on the dyno up to 140 miles an hour. Pretty cool. They also did a classical guitar recording in the back seat of one of these things going 55 miles an hour. So, the car was really known for being quiet. In any case, there's really not much more to talk about under the hood here. It just works, you know, and it keeps working. I keep the oil. I do it 5,000 miles or less. I do Mobil 1 just because it seems to like it. But I've done other oil in this car, and it's been fine. I just think the most important thing is keeping a regular service interval. So, if we look on the inside here, you can see I've added a steering wheel cover, which it really didn't need. The steering wheel in this car is fine. I just want a little more thickness. But the leather in here has held up really, really well. That was the other thing that the previous owner did that was good, is he made sure to condition the seats regularly. He said once a month. I don't believe him, but maybe he did. I don't know. There's a little bit of discoloration here, you know, in the armrest. And right here, where is it? Yeah, right around here, my leg touches there when I drive because I'm tall. So that's kind of flattened out a little bit, but it's really not bad. You know, if I re-dyed that armrest, it would look fine. And again, this is a driver, this is not a show car. So we'll talk a little bit about the inside. There you go, you can see the driver's seat. You know, it's really not that bad. I had it re-cushioned. I mean, not completely re-cushioned, but I had some cushion support added, actually 3 times. And the 3rd time was finally the charm, and that made a huge difference. So you can see it's nice and firm and yet soft. The seats in this car have kind of the older style Mercedes influenced springy seats, which is kind of nice. So it's you actually get like some extra suspension from the seats, and it's one of those things that I think, you know, more cars should have now. I'm kind of disappointed that that's something that's really gone away over the years, but it really smooths out the bumps, and it's just such a delight. You kind of feel like you're just riding on a magic carpet. But let's see, you can see you've got real wood inserts here, not like the American cars of the day where you had, you know, plastic wood, but they used real wood. And if I'm not mistaken, I know certainly for the first gen, and we'll wait for them. It's a nice day, so I think we're going to see a lot of that out here. It's so beautiful out here. But if memory serves, I believe on the first gen, and maybe that even continued through the second, and I think they call this the 2.5 generation. But you know, this is all real wood, and I think it was made by the Yamaha Piano Company, because at the time Toyota didn't have, you know, the ability to make wood of that quality. And you can see we've got it there, got a little bit here on the radio. Other than that, you know, if you took the wood off, it's kind of 90s Toyota in here. You know, it's kind of just, you know, ho-hum. It does have these cool kind of disappearing gauges. When you turn the car off, all the gauges go black, and you can't see them at all, you know, for the most part, unless you look really hard. And that's kind of neat. That is something that tends to go wrong with these cars, is like the tach and the speedometer tend to stop working. And so when I first got the car, the previous owner told me, you know, he's like, yeah, just rap on the dash real hard, like right here, and that should get the gauges back. And you know, I'll be darned, that's what I've been doing for 6 years, and the gauges work fine. They were really temperamental for a while, and then I must have hit them just right, and they just haven't been a problem since. So that's been great. Anyway, you've got dual zone climate control. That works great. One of the things that's nice about my car, as opposed to some of the other ones I've seen, is I know that these screens tend to go out. But I don't have any dead pixels. Everything works fine. You can see I've got an aftermarket Pioneer radio, which gives me Bluetooth, telephone. I've got the microphone up here. And, you know, I can hook up my phone to it and listen to music, and it's great. I really didn't like the stock radio, and I got rid of it, which I kind of regret. But again, this is not a show car, and it's never going to be. It's just a nice, good driving car. Another thing that it has, which is cool, it's got this vent down here to keep your legs warm, sorry, not warm, cool. And especially, you know, when you start getting that triple digit heat, I mean, the air conditioning in this car just kind of feels like it surrounds you, and it's just relentless air conditioning. It's so nice. So huge fan of that. It's too bad they don't have that in all the cars now. I'm going to shut the door so I can show you a couple more features here. I think I'll shut it has a tilt sunroof, which works great. It's a one-touch, you know, sliding sunroof. Still works perfect. Same here, one touch to close. You know, and again, old 90s Toyota kind of switch gear, which is fine. And then it's got a manual cover here, but it's nice and substantial feeling, which is great. And then you've got your home link, which I'm sure works. I don't have a garage, so I don't worry about that. Up here, you've got the dimmer switch for the gauges, and you can actually switch them to be, you know, always bright. And that works great. And then you've got your mode, function, and reset buttons here, so you can see the car's been idling a lot right now, so my average isn't so hot. But you can see all the different things, which, you know, again, by today's standards, not a big deal. Every car has that. But, you know, back in the 90s, you know, it was really cool to have that many computerized features. So, you know, again, this car was super duper fancy back in the day. Also, you've got the trip odometer. I'll show you that. There we go. And usually I don't even reset that because it always tells me how many miles since I refilled. So, you know, unless I'm kind of like tracking a longer trip, I just don't even mess with that. But it works great. You know, all of this stuff still works great. And every button, every switch works. It's awesome. You've got your auto headlights, which I just leave on auto. I don't know if you can see that. There we go. Auto headlights. You got your fog lamp controls, and I just leave those on. I mean, there's just not a whole lot to say about this. You've got the wipers. They work great. I wish it had the automatic wipers. That would be cool. You know, like the rain sensing wipers. I'm just not sure if that was really a thing. And I mean, most of these cars came pretty fully loaded, but I think there were a few features that this car didn't come with. Some of these came with navigation. I'm so glad it didn't. You know, 1998 sat nav. Whew, no thank you. I mean, that would be like having, I don't know, like a really old video game, which is cool, but, you know, not very useful. And then up here, you can see we've got the, come on camera, you can do it. So right up here, you've got the auto dimming rear view mirror, and it still works great, which is amazing. Again, the Toyota quality is pretty incredible. I mean, look at this visor. It's still tight, you know, after all this time, 229,000 miles. You've got your lighted vanity mirrors, which work most of the time. This one is a little finicky for some reason. Of course, today it works perfect. That's cool. Headliner is sagging a little bit up here. It was like that when I bought it, and it hasn't really gotten worse. So it doesn't bother me. You know, and the visors hold it up, so it's fine. And then also, you can see it's got the sliding visors, now, which keep you protected from the sides, which is cool. And then, you know, probably the neatest little quirky feature is going to be this one, which is, you know, you don't want any sun coming through by your rear view mirror. That's just terrific. I love that. It's just such a vintage touch. I mean, I suppose you could, well, mine doesn't even want to, I guess that has kind of shown its age. But I don't care because I leave it down all the time. So, you know, again, who cares? It's fine. Oh yeah, I remember I wanted to talk about this. So, in here you have a 6-disc CD changer. Look at how nicely this opens. Look at that, isn't that cool? And you have a little bit of space up here to put whatever you want. Some papers. It won't hold a whole lot. And this is where you hold the CD changer. It comes with 2 of these, you know, which is neat. The Lexus multi-CD plate. This still worked perfectly, but I don't have it hooked up anymore just because I have my aftermarket system. But, you know, such beautiful wood, such attention to detail. And I just love how nicely that opens. Now let's look at how the glove box opens. So it's surprising that they put so much effort into this and then like 0 effort into this. I mean, it's just kind of your standard Toyota floppy glove box there. And then there's a little panel that you can remove right there, and that's how you change the cabin air filter. Man, when I bought the car, I'm not sure the original owner had changed the cabin air filter. And if he did, I don't know in what decade. It was disgusting. I mean, this car, every time I drove it, I got a sniffly nose, and I just couldn't figure out what it was all about. I mean, the air in here was just disgusting. I mean, it just smelled nasty. And I just had no idea what was going on. And in fact, it was the cabin air filter. I pulled it out. It was brown, black, full of hair, and just yuck. Leaves, all kinds of stuff. So folks, make sure you change your cabin air filter. It's super easy. And it only takes a couple of minutes. So, you know, I try to do that once or twice a year. But, you know, I mean, even if I do it every 3 years, it won't be as bad as the guy I bought it from. And again, he loved this car, so I'm not, I don't mean to call him out. You know, Robert, if you're watching, I apologize. But, you know, that was nasty, dude. So, looking over here, you can see the passenger seat. It's in very nice shape. You know, I think I let a wet cup sit on it in one spot for too long and pulled some of the dye off of the seat, but it's in really good shape. It still has plenty of padding, and it's really a nice place to sit. Legroom in this car, pretty good. You know, I should have worn pants today, but I didn't. It was a nice day, and kind of hot outside. But, you know, my leg tends to kind of rest a little bit here and also right here, which is fine. On a long trip, you know, that gets kind of old, honestly. So I wish it had a little bit more room. I'm 6'2", and I have long legs. So that's, you know, that's kind of a thing. I get the feeling that this car was designed for someone who's like 5'10". You know, I think it would be perfect if you're a 5'10" or shorter. But yeah, just not really ideal for somebody of my size. Also, another thing, and hopefully I can show you this. So you can see my head actually touches the ceiling. And hey, Corvette, nice. So you can see, you know, I need a little more headroom. So if I open up this, I have a little more room, but then I can't hold my head straight. So I'm gonna have to hold it at an angle. So basically what I'm getting at is, if I'm to be in a good upright position, which supports good posture, my head touches the ceiling. And not by just a little bit, by a lot. And again, this sunroof kind of eats up some of that, so you can see this is not ideal. So most of the time, and I'll put it to my preset, it says memory seats. So I have to drive like reclined, and it really just gives me about a finger's length up top here for my head. So that was kind of the biggest reason why I got a different car for my commuting. And you know, I'm a freelance musician. I drive all over the place. And so, you know, oftentimes I would do, I mean, easily I would do 100 miles a day, sometimes much more than that, you know, and so we're talking about a lot of it in LA traffic. And so having to recline while driving, it's fine for the most part, but if you have to like check your mirrors and look around a lot, I just felt like I was craning my head forward often. And it got a little old. So I bought a car that was a little bit, well, a lot more comfortable just for a tall guy, but not more comfortable in terms of just plushness. And it's a great car, and I'll be reviewing that on the channel as well. It's my Kia Optima plug-in hybrid electric vehicle, and it's a great car. I'm very happy with it. But every time I get back into this car, I just it's amazing how high quality it feels, because they just really did a good job. I think the correct figure in the 80s, Toyota spent $1 billion developing this car. So, and I really feel like it was money well spent. You can feel it. Just listen to how the door closes. It's like a bank vault. It's just awesome. Now down here you'll see we've got power or snow. So we have different. Oh yeah, there we go. Turns on that little light, and I can turn it off. Turn on the power, and that basically just kind of livens up the throttle and the shift patterns. And I mean, this is not a performance car, but it'll scoot when you want it to. Let's talk about the back seat. I'm going to turn off the car because we're a little low on gas. Forgot to fill up before doing this. Sorry. So let's talk about the back seat. Got my jacket here. Sorry about that. Okay. So here you go. You've got the back seat. Nice pleated leather. You've got an ashtray with your own lighter, because it was the 90s. People still smoked. Back here you've got these headrests that you can adjust, and that's nice. Again, this is not a high-tech car. You can see where my seat is leaned back. So I'm going to get in, and I mean, there's not really enough room for me. Another thing about these cars that tends to happen is these seats just get loose. I don't know what that's all about, but I don't really care, because you're leaning back in it and it's fine. You don't notice it until you get back here. Oh yeah, these are power headrests, which is kind of neat. And then the seat belts are also motorized. Also, you have all these lights. 1, 2, there's a third one here. When I turn on the map light, it fires that up, which is pretty neat. You've got air vents for both passengers. Again, my beef with this car is there's no headroom, including in the back seat, especially in the back seat. So you'd kind of have to slump down, and then it's fine. The seats are very, very springy and cushy and comfortable. So that part's nice. But as you can see, the leather is in very nice shape, especially for its age. No cracks. It just looks great. It's really held up well. Here you've got the armrest. Ooh, I need to clean that cup holder. Yuck. But you've got a cup holder back here. But yeah, as you can see, there's just not a whole lot going on back here. Another ashtray over there. You've got the auto down windows. Every window is auto down, which is also nice. So, and you get a nice view of the front of the car from back here, which is great. I'm gonna scoot out here. Solid door once again. Just really, really good build quality. Oh yeah, before we go for a little drive, I'll show you my other favorite feature of this car. Now, a common problem that these have is the stock key, and this happened with all the Lexus models. They just weren't, this plastic deteriorates over time from starting a bunch of times, and so it'll break. And so my key, when I bought it, was broken. So I actually just bought this aftermarket thing from Amazon, and I put the electronics in it, but I haven't had the key cut. So I've been using the valet key for 6 years, but it's fine. It works just fine. So I use this to start and stop the car, and then I use this for my remote. Again, I could get it fixed, but I just don't really care that much. The car's fine without it, so it's cool. Oh yeah, I also did struts, all 4 struts. KYB made a huge difference. The other thing that made a huge difference, the Michelin Defender tires. I really like those. Really made the ride nicer. Everything, it just quieted everything down. These chrome wheels have seen better days, but you know, they still look good from 20 feet. You can see you got these big brakes here, really big brake calipers and rotors. So a lot of people will grab these and put them on other cars for a cheap, like, big brake upgrade. I'm sure they stop smaller cars better. In this car, you know, they're okay. It's anti-lock and it has stability control, and those seem to work really well. But you know, I've had a few close calls in this thing and felt like it could use more brake, frankly. But again, I've done pads. I think I've done rotors, but I did pads and sensors on the back. I can't remember if I've done the fronts, honestly. But I've done everything else, and I've done, you know, fluid exchange and everything. Anyway, sorry I'm rambling. On the remote, if you go to the unlock button, press and hold, check this out. It's gonna drop all 4 windows and open the sunroof. I didn't hold it long enough. Maybe I can get it to open all the way. There we go. Look at that. So that's a really nice feature. It just looks cool with all the windows down. The rear windows do this neat kind of like half roll down thing where they kind of go like that. Nothing's broken. That's the way it's supposed to be. They have this little guide here that kind of pulls it down there. You can see it's exactly the same on both sides. So yeah, I don't have remote start or anything. It just locked itself automatically. And of course you have the power trunk release. And again, we're not doing the trunk today, sorry. But it's pretty big. It could be bigger, you know. But what they did with this car is they put the fuel tank, instead of putting it under the car, they put the fuel tank kind of like right here. So it kind of takes up, it's sitting upright instead of sitting kind of horizontal. You know, it's a vertical sitting fuel tank. I had to replace that, but that's a long story. It was not the car's fault, but it was hard to get the gasoline smell out. So in any case, let's go for a drive. I should also mention, when you put the key in, you can also do the window roll down thing, which is great. Put my coat in the back seat and we'll do a quick drive. Talk about driving impressions here. Again, the 1UZ firing to life with no problems. I mentioned all auto for the windows, which is great. So I just kind of give everything a pull, one touch, and then this thing just isolates you. It truly is a quiet car. Even the air conditioning is quiet.